Hey everyone, Sparks back with another Girls Frontline 2 video, and we just got one of the strongest characters in the game yet. I know it's been kind of crazy. We got Klukai, and then we got a great support for her, and now I'm telling you we got another extremely strong character. Vector is probably the best character in the game other than, I don't know, Klukai or Chungjo, kind of tied. I don't know. Those are all like super top tier characters, but let me give you the headlines on her really quick. So she is definitely a must pull, especially if you are focusing on the fire team. She is a must pull in that case. In fact, if you're not building the fire team, there's some other considerations. So we'll talk more about that later. Then you want to make sure that after you get one copy of her, go for her weapon. I would get a single copy of her weapon after you get a single copy of her. It's going to give your allies 10% additional damage if they have burn debuffs on them, and burn attacks deal 10% more damage. Plus, if she's at full HP, she gets a random buff each turn. So the weapon is really valuable here. Generally on damage dealing characters, the weapons are better than on supports. So I would go for that before you start going for a bunch of duplicates. Then I would go for V1. Now I think a lot of people are telling everybody to go for V1. V1 is very good, but I would personally get one copy of the weapon before you go for V1. But if you have extra resources, then go for V1 on her. It's going to increase burn damage by 30% and increase burn support attacks to 2 instead of 1 on her passive skill, which of course we will get into in this video here. So another unique thing to note about Vector is that none of her skills actually use CI points. Instead, she uses them automatically for 10% damage boost whenever the confection index gets full. So she's going to gain confection index points by using her other skills, then that's going to fill up, and on that turn when it's full, it'll automatically drain it and she gets that damage bonus. So very unique character in that respect. You can kind of ignore trying to build confection index because that's just going to all take care of itself and you don't have to worry about getting enough to use her ultimate. Okay, so those are the headlines. She's very good, kind of some unique things about how she works. Now let's talk about her skills and what they do specifically. So skill 1 deals burn damage to a single target and inflicts the overburn debuff. This is something we see from a lot of other characters, including the standard unit Sharkery, which probably most people have built by now. So she's going to deal overburn with that, and it deals an additional 50% fixed damage. So a pretty strong skill, and mostly you're going to be using this simply to apply the overburn debuff if the enemy doesn't already have it from one of your other team members. Chances are if you're building the fire team, you're going to have more overburn going on than you even need to think about. Then in skill 2, it's going to deal burn damage to a single target. It also applies a debuff that creates burn tiles around the target, and this skill is basically a filler between her ultimate, which we'll talk about now because it has a cooldown of 2 turns. Now, the ultimate is what you want to be using more of, but of course, you can't do that every turn, and so you're going to use the skill 2 in between. And really, you're only going to use skill 1 if, for whatever reason, you need to apply that overburn status effect, which you're not able to do from some other character for some reason. But anyway, her ultimate deals 60% of attack in a huge AoE. I believe it's 7 tiles long, and it also creates burn tiles. This is going to make all the enemies on those tiles take extra burn damage, and it just looks cool to see everything on fire. Vector may be one of the most badass looking characters we've gotten yet. It also gives everyone a buff that increases burn damage by 10% and a flat 20% damage increase. So you'll want Vector to go before your other units, unless you have Chungjo, which she should still go first, and everyone hopefully does have Chungjo. So you'll have Chungjo go, and then you'll have Vector go, and then you'll have your other units, likely Sharkery, and then whatever your 4th unit is, go in that order. So now let's talk about her passive. Her passive gives her 1 extra burn support attack to allies. This is a very important part of her skill. Dealing burn support attacks is a big part of what makes all this work. This is really good with Chungjo, of course, as well as with Sharkery. Make sure you get the new keys. So we got a big update just now that gave us some extra game modes, a lot of kind of different things, but one of the biggest things was that some of the characters got new keys. So make sure you get that new key from Chungjo. The important thing to note in this case is that Chungjo's support attack gets changed to a burn type. So this is going to be very good with Vector's passive ability here. This also means you will probably want to change Chungjo's weapon attachments to burn rather than ballistic. But anyway, I'm kind of going on a tangent here. Let's get back to what the passive actually does. It's also going to create an effect that at the start of each turn, if Vector's confection index is full, Vector consumes all points of confection index and increases attack by 10% until the end of the round. So that's what I was mentioning at the beginning of the video, where she's just automatically going to get a 10% bonus from her confection index rather than spending the confection index on skills. She also is immune to burn tiles, which is great because she basically makes the entire field burn tiles. Finally, she will also do a damage over time effect for 20% of damage if the target has overburn. Remember, her skill 1 gives overburn, so that shouldn't really be a problem, as well as you're probably getting overburn from a bunch of other attacks from your other allies. So very, very strong kit. Her skills, both single target and AoE. You don't need to worry about confection index. She's great with support attacks, just kind of busted all around. But now let's take a look at keys. I'm going to give you 2 recommendations just kind of based on what CN players are doing. The key that gives her 3 CI points at the start of the battle is great because, then she's just going to deal that bonus damage that much faster. Also, the 6 key that gives additional effects if the enemy has overburn on it will make her deal burn damage equal to 60% and do extra stability damage, which typically she doesn't really do stability damage. So that's going to help her deal more stability points as well, because that is sort of one of the weaknesses of her kit. Overall, she's very strong, and I would highly recommend trying to get her. That said, if you don't have Chungjo, she's much less valuable because she is only really good on a full burn team. But if you aren't building a burn team, you might want to think about burning a burn team. So unfortunately, I'm personally very low on resources because I went all in on corrosion. So we'll see if I'm able to pull her. Let me know what your experience is with her and if you have pulled her, and if you decided to go for the V1 first or if you decided to go for the weapon first. Again, I think getting 1 copy of her weapon is probably the priority, but you're going to get very similar results either way, I think. So, all right, thanks for watching, guys. If you're not subscribed already, please hit that sub button. It will really help out the channel. Also, you can give the video a like and check out my Twitch channel. I just recently became a Twitch affiliate. Link to that in the description below.